right. Hey, these last 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago we started, 3 weeks ago, we started a series called Uncharted, and we're talking about the life of Abraham. In our first week, we talked about how God called Abraham to leave everything he knew to go into uncharted territory. And we talked about how it just takes small steps of faith for God to do something great with that. And then last week we talked about how God had promised Abraham to be the father of nations, and Abraham and Sarah tried to figure it out in their own way. They thought they weren't sure how God was going to do it, and so they're like, well, God's not doing it, so maybe God wants us to do it or figure it out for ourselves. And they messed it up. They didn't trust God. And we talked about how God still uses you even when you mess things up. Well, today I'm really excited to share with you one of the craziest stories of Abraham's life, but it really demonstrates just how faithful he was. So let's talk about this. How do you view God? How do you view God? Now, there's normally the church answer is that God is loving and kind and sent his son Jesus to die for us on the cross so that we could have a life in heaven after we die. And that is awesome, absolutely true. But I think there's also some other views of God that a lot of times we hold as well. For example, I think a lot of us view God as a principal. He's kind of there to make sure everyone keeps in line. And as long as you don't do anything bad, then you're fine. You never have to see the principal's office, right? You never have to go see the principal. But if you mess up, the principal is there to bring the hammer down, right? And I think a lot of us kind of feel like God kind of works that way, that he's there to, reward us when we're good and to punish us when we're bad, like a principal. Other people, I think, view God as kind of like a kindly old man, sitting on his porch, just kind of watching it all happen. But he's kind of like a sleepy old man, so when stuff happens, he doesn't really interact with stuff. I think some people kind of view God like that. Like, we see children starving in Africa, and we're like, God, if you really cared about it, you would fix this thing, but you must just be some old man just kind of watching it all happen and trusting everything else to take place. I think another way a lot of people view God is as like a vending machine. That basically when you need something, you go to God. God, I need help with this test. Will you please help me? Put it in your corner, press the button, get it in, and God's going to help you. You're like, awesome, thanks, God, you rock. And then you walk away, kind of do your own thing, until all of a sudden you need something. Oh, God, my parents are going through a divorce. Really need your help. And so you kind of call on God when you need him, but when you don't need him, he's kind of like out of the way, kind of like a vending machine, right? I don't know what your view of God is. But I'll tell you that no matter what your view of God is who he is. And he's going to do what he says he will do. God is who he says he is, and he's going to do what he says that he'll do. And so the only way, if God's not going to change, it's going to be our view that changes. And you're going to see what happens when God asks you to do something that you would never imagine. And the question is, what will you do? Will you allow God to change your view of him? So Abraham and Sarah have already had a child through Sarah's slave, her servant, but it was not the child that God had promised him, not the one that he said, hey, I'm going to make you the father of nations through this. And so some angels come and visit them, and they say, this time next year, Sarah is going to be pregnant. Well, Sarah's been waiting, 50 years for this to happen, and it's not happened. She doesn't believe it, so she laughs, and these angels are like, hey, why is your wife laughing about this? Does she not trust that God's going to do what he's going to do? And he goes, well, we don't know. So, long story short, Abraham and Sarah are having this boy named Isaac. His name means laughter. And they love him. You can imagine this is their prized boy. This is yes, this is the one that God promised us. We stepped out in faith. God asked us to go into uncharted territory, and we obeyed him. We trusted him. We had faith. And he's given us this son, and through this son, we're going to have even more kids, and we're going to be rich, and God's going to make us great rulers, all this stuff, right? And then this happens. Check this out. This is what God said to Abraham one day. He said, hey, take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you. So you can imagine, if God had said this to Abraham, what do you think Abraham's reaction would have been?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, what do you mean, God? You want me to sacrifice my son? My only son, the son that I love? What would you do? What do you do when God asks you to do something that you're like, I don't know? And this is the hard part, because each one of you are going to face a choice in your life, if you haven't already. When God is going to ask you to do something, and you're going to decide whether you want to trust God, have faith, or not. And this is the breaking point for a lot of people, that God will ask them to do something, and they're like, yeah, I don't like that. I don't believe that. I don't think that is right. And so God, and this was a great thing as I was growing up, but now I'm an adult, I'm a teenager, you're not really relevant, what you say isn't really right, and so I'm just going to choose my own path here. And then I imagine that's what Abraham probably felt, right? Like, God, you promised me you were going to give me a son, and now you're taking him away? No way. I am not going to do that. I am not going to follow through with that. At least that's how I think a lot of people would feel. And it's something that you're going to feel with too. Whether you're in a future relationship or something, God's going to ask you to do something, and you're going to be like, yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's right. I don't want to do that. And so what are you going to do when God asks you to do something you don't want to do? Are you going to trust God, or are you going to trust yourself? Well, Abraham, he is crazy full of faith. And he does it. He takes his son, he walks him up one day to go sacrifice him, and Isaac on the way up there, he says, hey, Dad, I see we have the wood here for the sacrifice, we have the fire, or everything, but we don't have the sacrifice. What's up? And Abraham's like, God will provide a sacrifice. Now, Abraham knows the sacrifice is his son. Isaac doesn't know that, but at some point, Isaac figures it out, because his dad wraps him up in a rope, places him on the altar, just like that video at the very beginning, and you can imagine Isaac's like, I'm really sorry about my room. I will clean it right when we get back. Please don't kill me over my room. I don't know what's going on. Please don't do this, right? I don't know what Isaac was thinking, but check it out. Then Abraham, reached out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. He's really going to do it. Now, scholars believe that we're not sure, other than Abraham was totally full of faith, what he thought was going to happen. We don't know if he thought that maybe God was going to stop him. Probably not. He probably thought that he was going to kill his son, and then God was going to miraculously raise him back up to life somehow. He didn't know how, but he was willing to do it. What are you going to do? When God asks you to do something that you don't think is right, that you don't agree with, what are you going to do? Are you going to trust God or not? Well, right at the moment he's about to slay his son, God calls out to him. And he says, do not lay a hand on the boy, he said. Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son. That's something that God later on won't do with his own son, Jesus. When he sacrifices Jesus on the cross, he doesn't stop it. Well, Abraham trusts God. He's willing to do it, and God proves who he is. God proves that who he is, who he said he is: loving, kind, merciful, and compassionate. And the thing here is that Abraham allowed God the opportunity to change his view of him, right? That God is who he says he is, and that he's going to do what he says he's going to do. So the big idea is that God can change the way you see him. The way you see God now is not how you're always going to view who God is. He can change the way you see him, just like he changed how Abraham saw him. There's a guy named C.S. Lewis who is an amazing scholar. And I know some of you guys have a reading list from school for next year. Some of you guys are going to your freshman year or high school. Some of you guys just love to read. Some of you guys you hate reading. You do not want to look at a book right now. But I want to encourage you to put a book on your reading list this summer called The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And in this book, C.S. Lewis, this Christian scholar, he gives a really awesome view of God in the form of a lion. And there's two kids in this story, Edmund and Lucy, and there's more kids. There's actually four kids in there. But in this part of this section, Edmund and Lucy, brother and sister, are talking with a talking beaver and his wife, Mr. and Mrs. Beaver, and they are telling him about Aslan, this lion. And in the book, Aslan represents Jesus. So you guys got to have some inside scoop here of what is not in the Chronicles of Narnia. They don't go out and explicitly say that, but that is who Aslan represents, Jesus. And so this is what they say. Lucy asked, is he a man? Aslan, a man? Said Mr. Beaver sternly. Certainly not. I tell you, he is the king of the wood, the son of the great emperor beyond the sea. Don't you know who is the king of the beasts? Aslan is a lion. The lion, the great lion. Oh, said Susan, I thought he was a man. Is he quite safe? I shall feel rather nervous about meeting a lion. That you will, dearie, and no mistake. That's my old lady beaver voice. Said Mrs. Beaver, if there's anyone who can appear before Aslan without their knees knocking, they're either braver than most or else just silly. Then he isn't safe, said Lucy. Safe, said Mr. Beaver. Don't you hear what Mrs. Beaver tells you? Who said anything about safe? Of course he isn't safe. But he's good. He's the king, I tell you. I'm longing to see him, said Peter, even if I do feel frightened when it comes to the point. C.S. Lewis cast Jesus in the role of a lion. In the scriptures, he's not safe, but he's good. And that's who God is. You imagine if we had a lion come in through this room, we would be terrified. We would be scared out of our minds. And really, if we came face to face with God today, that's how we would feel. We would be like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And he's not safe, but he's good. And so what's going to happen to you when God asks you to do something you don't agree with? What are you going to do? Are you going to be like Abraham and trust God? Or you want to decide, I know better than God. If God was really God, he wouldn't ask me to do this. If God really loved me, he wouldn't do this. So I'm not going to believe in you anymore, God. You're nice for my parents. You're nice for some people that don't think as well as I do. But for me, I need to do my own thing. Well, this morning, I really want to challenge you. This summer, create some room in your life to be surprised by God and look for God to show up. You know, if for no other reason for you to come to mix with us, it's because you have the opportunity to get away from everything else that's going on in your life and to spend a week just focusing on who God is and giving him room to show up and to say, God, who are you? What do you want with my life? And you guys are going to have a busy summer, and you're not going to have time all set aside in your daily life when you're going to do that. But when you come to mix, you put yourself in that way, away from home, away from family, away from others, just with your closest friends, and hanging out and getting to know God. So I want to encourage you to do that this summer. God can change the way you see him, the way you let him. So as we go to small groups, really briefly, I want you to think about this. What's one view I have about God that may be incorrect? What's one view I have about God that may